Successful recording. Braden can edit that out. Listen, welcome everyone to Conquer the Clutter. For today, we are closing in on the end of October. It doesn't seem possible. And I'm happy to see all of your smiling faces this morning. And thank you for those of you who got the email for joining me a second time for the CBC recording. I don't have a date yet when that's going to either be put on the website or when it's going to, they're doing television as well as radio. But I think most of the television will be the recording that they did of me presenting, and then an interview that they did with me after. There shouldn't be any identities that people didn't want identified. So today we're going to talk more about self-sabotage. Now, I want you to see this material, though, in a slightly different light. And so self-sabotage is such a big accusation to make about ourselves. We may not be deliberately self-sabotaging. I want you to convert that expression over to the ways that we don't give ourselves a fair chance at making our goals happen for ourselves. And so it's not necessarily, some people do self-sabotage, but that's not the majority of people. But if you see your beliefs, your fears, your reactions, your concerns reflected in anything I say, don't make it about you are a self-saboteur. Make it about, this is a way that I need to pay more attention to what I'm doing or not doing, and just question myself about what is my reasoning, like what kind of internal information or automatic pilot do I access that isn't getting me where I want to go. All right, so I'm going to just move my material up a tiny bit here. Okay, so when we aren't accessing what is needed, all right, to carry with us day by day as we make changes, particularly the changes that are necessary for our goals. All right, I mean, why try if you're not interested in reaching your goals? And so one of the things that we have to do is either access new strategies, better information. At the same time, keep your eye out. Are there things that you need to let go of? All right, because what you're holding on to or what you're giving an increased, you're factoring in too much isn't right for us. All right. And by doing that, we're occupying the space we need to make those decisions, to action the plan we have for meeting our goals. Most of the time, we need to create space. We need space in our head, space in our life. Time is another way, okay? To allow what is right, or at least a better baby step. And to do that, to put ourselves into that uncertain zone because we're trying something new or we're trying a different balance of all the factors, what we see, what we know to be true, what we believe is true, what we believe about ourselves as a capable human being, how much steam we have in the tank, how many other distracting factors we have or other worries. We're trying to create a different balance in that. We're changing the flavor of the soup of life, all right, so that we can move forward, right? And it takes courage to do that. So even stopping to rethink what the new balance would be, I want you automatically, when you don't go into autopilot, I want you automatically to give yourself a pat on the back, because that takes guts, right? You've just gone into uncertain territory, and that takes courage. It also takes courage to accept the uncertainty, because you see inherently in creating that new balance, all right, you know, you can tell, you can feel you're having a different cognitive experience with this new plan, but you're also probably having physical symptoms as well. So listen to them, because uncertainty, step by step along the way, is what we need. All right. Until we can see things for what they really are. And it takes a while. You're a ways down that path of a slightly different way of handling something or considering something before you have the feedback that, I just sense I'm on the right path. Okay. So along that way, however, get ready for it. All right. You're going to feel resistance. And that is not, don't listen to the alarm bells. Just slow down and get your bearings. Check it out. Is there anything here that you know definitely is a non starter on this new way to handle or new way to think about it? And just continue to take baby steps, right? So today I want to talk a little more about the ways that we can sabotage is too big a word. It's more create a resistance in ourselves, right? So we go on autopilot, stop or hold. And we can do that by judging ourselves compared to others. And we do this in two ways. We compare ourselves and we feel less than, or we compare ourselves by judging the other and finding insufficiencies in them. Either way, we're creating a resistance, because now we have to factor in things that probably are just feelings, they're just perception, and they may be old habits as well. And when we do this, whether we are trying to adjust our appreciation and support for ourselves and get more certain, or judge ourselves in comparison to others and find them insufficient, or find ourselves insufficient, we're doing it for one reason, and that is to feel better about ourselves. Right? Even when we judge other people as insufficient, the gain for us is that that gives us something. All right. So when we judge others, all right, we can do that personally, privately, just in our own perception, or we can also do it by contributing to gossip, by participating. So watch anytime you're being drawn into a discussion about someone else, just try your best not to waste your effort by joining in on what really is just opinion about other people, and for what purpose. Ask yourself, what am I going to achieve by participating in gossip? Even if it's perpetrated by the other person, just stay away from it. It's a waste of your energy. It's a waste of your thinking. It's a waste of your feelings. And that takes energy. And that also takes focus. And it changes our perception of the path forward, especially when those other people are part of who we need to encounter or interact with. All right. You take people as you find them, and that's enough. So when people gossip, or you listen to gossip, you participate, basically what's happening there is that we or they are comparing themselves, their lives, their something, fill in the blank, all right, compared to somebody else's life and compared to somebody else's choices. All right. And we're talking there about boundaries. We're talking about barriers, particularly when it's negative gossip. We're setting up a barrier. Do you really think that you're going to move forward um, with interacting in relationship to barriers about other people? You're not. All right. And so those barriers then become another factor. And often it's a false factor. Even when we judge the person in our own mind, this is not the same thing as setting healthy boundaries and limits. Because the difference between gossip and acting based on the perceptions formed by gossip, the difference with boundaries and limits is that we are abiding by and requiring other people to abide by our limits. All right. And our limits protect us personally and emotionally. When we have and we enforce and communicate healthy boundaries and limits for others, we're actually adding to our success because we are eliminating the resistance that handling the conflicts that come with unhealthy boundaries and limits create conflict. And then it creates conflict that later on you need to digest in your own mind as well. And usually we end up feeling badly. All right. And so just pick some way. Right now, I'd like you to take your pens and paper, and I would like you to write down one thing that you know you're susceptible about believing about yourself when you assess someone else's effectiveness or sufficiency, or you're judging your effectiveness or your success. What would be one thing about you that you could um, use as a measure about yourself? How do you know? What is the one thing you might criticize yourself about? Maybe you're feeling a little bit unsure or insecure about that. What would be one thing? Just write it down so that as we move through this material, you're thinking in concrete terms about yourself. It's not just listening to me ramble on, all right? You're actually applying it to, would I do that? How do I do that? How do I not do that to myself, right? So fill in the blank. All right. Basically, when we assess ourselves in relation to anything else, we are assessing ourselves. Remember, we have an automatic negative bias as a species. That is why we are still alive today, to avoid the negative. You avoid the negative by seeing the negative, but it's usually the first place we go automatically, right? And so when you're judging your safety of a plan or your potential success, you're judging the chance that you will feel a lack of. All right. How did you not measure up? What needs to be improved? And we can be motivated to try and find something about another person, maybe one of our partners in this, or you've seen somebody else try something, and we're motivated to try to find something about that person. We can be. What the more insecure we are, the more uncertain we are in an unhealthy way, in an unproductive way, we may be looking for how we measure up compared to somebody else's insufficiencies. So basically, we've just got our mind turned around to a negative mindset. Do you see how subtly that can happen? Well, I did better than them. Well, you can't say I did better than them or I did better than. You can't say that unless you're measuring the ways the other person or the other situation failed. Don't judge yourself and your potential success or your active success, what you've actually accomplished. Don't judge that by how much better than anything that your end, what you created, your end product, all right, your achievement measures. Measure it only by how close to what I imagined I could do, I wanted to do, it's important to me to do. How close am I? That's the way I want you to look at it. I want you to really be aware of all those other cultural pressures and cultural behaviors and habits we can silently, even unknowingly, get stuck in, right? Stay away from the negative. How close are you? And the question when there is a gap toward the end result that you're looking for is, okay, what do I need? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make enough of a difference that from this point, I can actually move forward a little more? And then, has what I need changed for me to close one more tiny gap? You judge your progress and what you've achieved. This is important when you've got piles and pathways. You judge that by, okay, what is left and what do I need positively now to move forward one more step? Don't go to the negative. Do not go to, oh, look at how much more there is. I'm never going to get done. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. That's a waste of your time. Okay. And when you find yourself kind of dealing in the negative, know that in some odd way, you're trying to make yourself feel better. You're trying in some way to even the score. Okay. And the more you do that, the more you might overgeneralize and see that you actually are failing or you actually are failing to make progress. As soon as you see that in a negative, ask yourself, why would you keep trying if every time at the end of whatever effort you made, your conclusion was it's not enough? Why would you keep trying? There is another mindset you can use. We'll talk about it in a minute. All right. Okay. So watch that you're not using strategies. Are you aware right now in the effort that you want to make toward a really important goal for yourself? All right. Are you using thinking, feelings, behaviors, attitudes, strategies that are eroding your motivation and using up your energy? And when you do that, here's what happens. That eroding effect on your own um, positivity, your own willingness to keep working at it, all right, justifies not being willing or able to put in the effort you need to put to keep going, moving forward, even in baby steps toward making your goal successful. So right now, let's take a minute or two. And I honestly want you to do this because I don't do this podcast free every week. All right. So that you can just listen to me talk. All right. I do this because I know that the right help isn't available for many, many people to make a difference. And I know that not everybody can afford the help they need. All right. And this is my way of trying to even the score for everybody. And that's why we have the open Q&A once a month, so that these questions that you're writing down on your tablet, your paper, you're bringing to those open Q&As and you're getting those questions. You're getting feedback, you're getting help with those things. So just like you would in a coaching session. The other thing I have to make really clear is that this exchange on podcast and even the open Q&A is not counseling, right? Because we don't have that contract of a therapeutic relationship. It's coaching, all right? And coaching is different. Okay, so have you ever been concerned about anything? Just, I want you to experience this, and I'm sure you will have had this experience, maybe not about clutter, but maybe about something else. Have you ever had a concern or an awareness of you being envied, right? And thought of as being something positive? What in your life have you done or are you particularly good at that the vast majority of time when you engage in that behavior, that activity, you have a pretty decent experience of success? I want you to really give that some thought. Has anybody else who is aware of that, who sees it as part of it, kind of reacted in an envious way? And how did that feel? And how do you approach those activities or that activity that you're particularly good at? Because everybody here, do not tell me that there is nothing that you're good at. All right. If you're still upright, there are things that you are good at, particularly good at. How do you approach those activities? And now just take a second and then write down one or two ways that how do you feel about approaching it? What do you do in preparation for approaching it? How do you feel at the end of whatever the work product time is? Got it? Okay, now step outside of that activity and pick something having to do probably with clutter or hoarding, all right, depending on how progressed it is. How do you approach whatever activities or efforts you make in that venue? Do, do you approach each of those differently? What do you say to yourself when it isn't an easy flow of well-known next steps, or you automatically using a skill you have and completing something or making progress on it? What are the differences between those two? That's your homework for this week. And I want people to come back next time, all right, with the answers to that. Because I want you to be able to see that if you plan on making progress, you have to build on your strengths. You don't have to beat yourself up with weaknesses. You have to build from your strength. And you show that strength. You have that strength. You know that strength with respect to other activities. And sorting, decluttering, making decisions, you need to bring those strengths and that confidence that you didn't always know how to do that other activity. You learned it, you struggled, you made mistakes, you bumped your head, you got back up, did something, and now you're better at it. Right? Okay, so to move forward toward our goal, we need to watch out and maintain awareness of how we are creating resistance in ourselves. Okay, because just giving ourselves another boulder in our backpack when we create with our feelings, our thoughts, our insecurities, our whatever, resistance. It's a negative thing. And when we do that, right, we're sabotaging our need to experience ourselves as being capable, just like in that other activity that you're particularly good at. I don't think you're approaching that by sabotaging yourself with insecurity and, oh, this time it won't work out, or talking yourself out of it before you even really get into it. What's the difference? And based on what? Right? How many people here, when they're approaching something that is difficult, something maybe that's new, definitely when it's difficult, how many people compare themselves to being equal to others? Is there anybody here, hands up, that when you are approaching clutter, hoarding, sorting, decisions, acquiring, whatever the feeder is to create the hoarded environment, okay, or not making decisions, how many people here compare themselves to somebody else or some other situation? I see some nods. I'd be interested in seeing a lot of hands up. Okay, I see a lot of hands up. Now, tell me, what good is that? What good is that? That is like stepping on a banana peel on your way out the door. It's the fastest way to end up on your back. That is never going to add to anything. Now, it's a slightly different thing if you're not comparing yourself. You're saying, I'm not having the same success they're having, but I stay here. I stay in self-worth. I'm still in the game. When I watch that person do that around order and staying, organized and whatever, what are they doing differently than what I'm doing? Learning from somebody else's experience, watching what they do, how they do it, how they talk to themselves, how they organize it in their mind. All right. And if you know them well enough, ask them. Say, just take me through this. Will you, step by step? Just talk me through it. Don't talk me through for my stuff. I want you to talk me through you solving this, your stuff. And then ask yourself, did they go to a different place than I go? And I'm betting that they don't start off, all right, with a lump in their throat and a feeling of the, uh, all right. So are you, when you start an activity, particularly around clutter and organizing and decluttering, are you automatically putting yourself in a one down situation, unequal? And do you find yourself setting or observing standards for others that somehow they're capable of more, or they achieve more because of something that you don't have. So, is that another way to sabotage yourself? Because you're not going to get better, all right, by observing what somebody else has that you don't have, unless it's a tool that completes the task. What a better question is, what do I need to learn? What do I need to, in what areas do I need to grow? All right. So that I don't create this situation for myself and that I can see me with all my flaws. We all have them. I got a long list of my own. All right. With my strengths and my vulnerabilities, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn? And where is it? All right. So be careful that you don't imagine arbitrary standards that then become the rule. And the rule is if I didn't do enough, then it doesn't count. How many people here actually say that to themselves? That in that 15-minute work period, I need to have done this. And if I don't finish that, it's not enough. I see one hand. Only one person says that to themselves? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, yes. Anything you do that you are honest with yourself about. You don't make excuses for not doing it. You're honest. You did it. Maybe it wasn't what you planned, but you did it. All right. Anything you do that moves you forward on a regular basis is positive. It doesn't matter whether it's a foot, 2 inches. You go back to that spot and you keep moving forward, and you will get there if you stay at it. Don't make rules about it doesn't count if it's not good enough. Don't judge yourself that way, and don't judge others that way. Okay? So listen, people, it takes all kinds to make a world. All right. So as long as we are not deliberately hurting ourselves or deliberately hurting somebody else, be who you are unapologetically and resist the urge to judge or make assumptions based on what we think we see. Remember, there are 3 aspects to everything. There's your viewpoint, your opinions, their opinion, all right, and the truth. And the truth is generally somewhere in between both of those. And the truth only counts in a court of law. Doing your best in that moment is truth. Right? So when you show up for others, how many people here would excuse somebody else if they failed to complete something? See a lot of hands. How many people here beat themselves up, all right, when they don't complete things? A lot more hands, all right. And what does that give you right now? On your pad of paper, write down, I do that because it gives me this. I'd be interested in the chat box to hear what your perceptions of what that gives you are. And if it gives you something other than a headache or guilt, then how's it working for you? How does doing that work for you? Hands up, anybody who thinks that beating yourself up, judging yourself harshly, and continually telling yourself it's not good enough is actually giving yourself something positive to work with, to sustain you, to motivate you, to support you in a task that really nobody wants to do. I don't know anybody who wants to do it, and I know people who don't hoard, and they don't want to do it either. All right. And I suspect that nobody likes the people, okay, who just wake up in the morning and are dying to do work that nobody else wants to do. Okay. Nobody likes them anyway. So we're not going to worry about them. I see one hand up that by beating themselves up, it actually, two hands up, that by beating themselves up and really judging themselves harshly, that gives them something positive to sustain them forward. You two I need to talk with. Okay, you come back to the open Q&A because we're going to have a discussion about that. All right, so the other thing too is don't let pride get in the way. Okay, pride comes just before the fall. And so when I say that in a clutter situation, pride is about it has to be perfect or it has to be a standard that doesn't exist right now or it doesn't count. There's a way to beat yourself up with pride as well, to just give yourself a slow leak. Because right after pride, if you didn't make the mark according to yourself, guess what follows? It's like on the next breath, shame. When you don't allow yourself to be satisfied, you don't have to be proud of it, but you have to say, okay, I did my, and telling yourself the truth helps. I did my honest best and I have achieved this in the way of not acquiring, making decisions that are productive for my goal, and moving forward with the clutter to declutter. All right. Envy also prompts us based on how we assume other people view us. Do you want someone? Is part of your image of what you will have at the end when you achieve this, that people will walk in to your home and approve it, that there's somebody somewhere who will approve it, a partner, a family member. And are you looking for their approval? And is that sufficient? Because when you don't meet that mark, I make an argument for let that go. Let that go. Really work on letting that go. If they're happy when this whole job is done, that'll be great for them. It can't be part of what you carry because there's an inverse relationship there. Every day it's not good enough. You feel the blame. You feel the responsibility. You feel the shame. All right. So when how we feel is based on how we assume other people view us, all right, you're looking outward rather than inward. You are adopting an external locus of control rather than an internal locus of control. And an internal locus of control is when you set the pace, you set the project, you break it down into chunks that are doable for you, and you continue. And what somebody else thinks really doesn't matter unless that somebody else is an enforcement agent like the fire department, your landlord, your mortgage company, your fire insurance company, children's services, animal control, bylaw, property standards, if you happen to be in a multi-unit dwelling. All right. So official enforcement agents are one thing, and they generally don't get involved unless it's way over the line some way and it represents a hazard for you and others. If anybody is in that situation, please put it in the chat box, a direct message to me. I want to know you're in trouble. All right. Okay. So the best way, the best way to get over any of these things, these little saboteur things that are there in our life, the best way to get past that is to work to know, and it is work, to know, to fully appreciate and overcome our attachment to non-living things. Because if we didn't give those things such importance, often undue importance, all right, we would be holding on to them. When we put our hand on them, we would make a decision. It's when we give ourselves a thought about, oh, it could be, finish the rest of that sentence, that we either leave it, put it down, promise to come back to it, or keep it. There are so few things. There are so few things that are worth that. All right. We attach so much meaning and value to those things, but not one living thing attaches or values us. None of those things feel that you are as important as you feel they are. You're the one giving the importance. Do you realize that that comes from fear? That comes from a feeling of insecurity, that if I didn't have this thing, something awful would happen. I would pay a negative price. Right now, on your pads of paper, write down, and please put it in the chat box. All right. What would it cost you? What would it do to you? What would be the price you would pay if all of those things disappeared? You made the decision to make them disappear. It's not somebody took them away. That's a whole other thing. But if all of those things disappeared, you just today said, and I'm not saying this is possible or to do it, but they're just gone. My pathways are clear. My floors are clear. What negative impact other than fear and regret would it give you? What is it actually going to cost you? Because fear generally is an imaginary thing, it's something we assign a value and meaning to that we fear. What's it going to cost you? So when you look at those things, and do look at them, all right, who's giving them their importance? And what would happen? What would happen in your life if they weren't there? How would your life be less than? Now, I'm not talking about in the Elaine scaling process. I'm not talking about the 1, 2, 3s. Those are the things that you absolutely do need. All right. And whether you need them or not, you absolutely love them like your best friend. Now, everything can't be your best friend. All right. Everybody in your life can't be your best friend, right? But it's amazing how all the other things that are mixed up with what I call the jewels, the things, and they can be worth absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter. It's not about the intrinsic value of them. It's about what they mean to you, right? How many of those things are you saying to yourself? Possibility of what's in that is important to me. And are you making everything a 1, 2, 3? Because somehow you're going to get to live longer than any of the rest of us. All right. And your days aren't going to be numbered and come to an end based on what it'll only be when you're finished with all of these possibilities. How many of those possibilities have you actually put into action already? Or are they just sitting there as future possibilities and events? Is the promise of something, even though you're not picking it up, you're not actually actioning it. You're not actually indulging and enjoying in those things. The possibility. How many people here are hanging on to things because of the possibility? Mhm. How many of those possibilities have you put into effect in the last 3 months? And when you look at how much you have, how many people are bringing more things in when they see the possibility of it, the promise of it, as though somehow you're going to get longer. All right. And if you, knowing how long it takes you to make these things come true, and you may be, I'm not saying you're not, look at your stash and ask yourself, huh, how long, how long does that mean I will be doing nothing but that activity? And is it possible to look at what you're keeping with different eyes and ask yourself, in the next 6 months, I can see you being a priority, you, and I'm only going to plan for one activity that I'm actually involved with and one in the wings and the product of what I need for that one in the wings. What would it take for you to kind of switch to a growth mindset from the fixed mindset you have? You have to keep everything because you don't know what you're going to need, and you're living on might. All right. Know that all of those things will never care about you as much as you care the importance you're giving them. So keep the 1, 2, 3s. All right. And maybe some of the 4s, because that's what's right for you. Okay. People will respect you. You will respect yourself a whole lot more if you can acknowledge that you're an imperfect person like everybody else. And you don't have to keep everything available just in case. If you were to regret something, what is the worst that's going to happen to you? And is that worse than what you do to yourself every day, judging yourself for the piles and the clutter? Is that worse? It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or their opinion. It matters what you think about yourself. What would it be like, right, to have room for, and what would this be like? All right, so you're out of promises. All right, you let stuff go, and now you have a little extra time and you want to start a new project. Would it be the worst thing at that point to go out and start looking for product for whatever this project is and getting just enough for each stage as you move forward, stage by stage to completion? Would that be the worst thing? Leave yourself open to learning. And do that by not assuming that you need to know and have everything that you could possibly need, right? Moving forward as far as you can see. And what would it take now for you to look at the other things, not the one, two, threes, and most of the fours, and just say to yourself, wasn't my best plan. I intended this, but you know what? I beat myself up every day. I walk around with blinders on. I'm getting into conflicts with people about the clutter. I don't like it. I don't feel good. It's like I carry all of you on my back and it weighs me down. It's really hard to be happy. It's really hard to be satisfied with myself. And you know what? It was wrong for me to promise my future away with all of these projects. It was wrong for me to do that. I am going to make a concerted effort to identify the one, two, threes. Those are the jewels, like the absolute jewels. All right. And some of the fours, so a few of the fours, maybe. All right. And the rest, you know what? I want my life back. I want my self respect back. I want my positive attitude. I want to leave room in my life for joy, fun, and play. And I want my life to get better long term. I want to let go of the concerns about keeping things, succeeding at whatever my objective was in keeping those things. All right. Because there's more than an even balance of being uncomfortable. And that's not a winning proposition. By keeping you, I have to pay an uncomfortable price. Okay. Have you ever felt uncomfortable with having more than you need? Anybody? Anybody ever felt uncomfortable with having more than you need? Has anybody ever felt that you don't deserve more than you need? That's what the fours are for. Okay, the one, two, threes are can't imagine life without it. The fours are, it's a little more than I need, but you know what? Um, I'm moving in that direction, and I want to start exploring whatever that is. And does that disconnect between what you thought the positive, or you may still think the positives of keeping all of that is? Can you see the disconnect with how you feel the rest of the time? How you are wearing blinders to the cost it is for you every day? And when was the last time you looked at the cost? Because you pay that cost every day. You pay it with your attitude, you pay it with your mood, you pay it with, no, I can't, I can't afford to look at it. I just can't afford to look at it. What else are you missing? Okay. What other successes are you undoing by carrying that? And how does that make you feel about yourself? And what other conflicts and struggles are you fostering by that feeling of insecurity that you're creating for yourself? You deserve to have the things in your life that create positivity. But when you overdo anything, you stop them being a positive and you make them a negative. Okay. The best things are found in moderation. We aren't going to live long enough for every possible opportunity that we could imagine that looks like fun and whatever. We need to prioritize. We need to prioritize so that we can really get the pleasure of doing it. When was the last time you did any of those projects too? This fun and joy and play. When was the last time that you actually really got into it and did it? Or are you worn out from the organizing? Are you worn out from the disapproval you have of yourself? Are you worn out from the disapproval that you receive from other people or the feedback? Have you started to assimilate the identity of negativity? Have you brought that into your life? And is that stuff worth it? Some of it will be. The 1, 2, 3s will be. And nobody can tell you what the 1, 2, 3s are except you. Nobody gets a vote on that except you. But when you've got the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10s, when was the last time you really, really, really enjoyed full out the 1, 2, 3s, any of them? I'd be interested in knowing that in the podcast, in the chat, in the podcast. We're going to wind up there. And next week, we're going to talk about the fear of failing. Okay? The fear of failing. But I want to stay on a positive note too. So my challenge to you this week, this is your homework. You don't have to, what you do about it is up to you. All right. And I don't want pressure. But I'm hoping that you will give yourself the right to success in your own eyes. All right. Through your own eyes. And I want you to look at all the stuff you have. I just want you to observe it. Okay. That's going to be the price for a free podcast. You do your homework. I want you to look at everything you have, and I want you to ask yourself, are you really my best friend? And anything that doesn't yell at you, of course I'm your best friend. Remember, we're going to do this together, and I'm going to give you so much fun, and it's going to be, and we always enjoy doing this together. All right. And there are things like that, and it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. Nobody else gets an opinion. But all the other hangers on, I want you to ask yourself, really? Really? And I go to a podcast every week and I feel bad about myself often in between because of you? What the heck? What the heck am I doing here? And you know what? Am I keeping you because I actually believe I deserve to feel bad about myself? Is this a way I prove to myself that I'm what somebody else has called me? Huh? Who's driving the bus here? You're driving the bus. How many people here are prepared to pick up their spear and hunt for the jewels this week? You don't have to do anything about the others, but I want you to be aware. I want you to start changing your relationship to the hangers on. Okay? Because you deserve better. You deserve to have the things in your life that love you, sustain you, and make you just know that life is worthwhile. And not all you don't deserve the hangers on that are just undone work. You don't deserve that. You don't deserve the price you pay for that every day. Good. Onward and upward, people. We will get there. We will get there. Take care. I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.